Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, all of you data, people interested in data, people interested in PowerPoint. We're so glad you found us. I'm Garland Colson, Conversation Architect of PresentationPoint, and I will be your host today. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our presenter today, Kurt Dupont, founder of PresentationPoint. Kurt's the founder of PresentationPoint. It's a company that provides world-leading software for digital signage, data-driven presentations, and real-time dashboards. And for over 22 years, his software has helped clients such as NASA, SpaceX, Nikon, IBM, Sony, and many other world-renowned companies. And today, Kurt's going to be telling us how to create live weather displays using PowerPoints. Take it away, Kurt.
Thanks, Garland, for the introduction. How's the weather in Edmonton, Canada today?
Oh, it's not bad. Probably about 3 degrees plus Celsius. So it's better than it has been. We've been getting freezing rain and things like that. So it's unusual weather lately.
Yeah. Okay. Here I'm located in Belgium, and here it's cold. It's around freezing, but it's still positive. So that's good. You see, all conversations start with the weather information. How is the weather? Is it going to rain, etc.? Do I need an umbrella? And so on. When will we see the sun again? And so on. So that's very typical for humans. We talk about weather constantly, or we start the conversation with it. So building live weather displays. Let me explain. We are not. We can use PowerPoint for reporting. We can build dashboards where we see the production figures or the sales figures, etc., or a meeting, etc. But when we create reports on paper, we are not going to include weather information probably. So weather displays is only when you run the slideshow, and probably not on your personal computer, but just in environments, and that's called digital signage, where you use television screens and PowerPoint or videos, etc., to communicate to your customers, to your employees, to your colleagues, etc. And that's probably where you are using a dedicated screen that you have hanging on the wall and where you display all the information. So that's probably limited to those applications there. So a weather display, like we see here on the screen, a nice image, you see the location and you see weather information. Live data, of course, we connect or we have plugin for PowerPoint where we do not display static information as before, as you normally do with PowerPoint. So we have plugin for PowerPoint that you can use to make the content on your slides dynamic. You can bring it to live and display live information. So this means that you see 22 degrees here on this image there. It's not typed in as you normally do in PowerPoint. No, it's linked to a weather data source by using DataPoint. And that's what we are going to discuss today. So you run the slideshow, it's running 24/7 on the television there, and our software is doing the updates on the screen. So you don't interrupt, you don't end the slideshow to make changes to the presentation, and you don't restart. No, you leave the presentation, the slideshow running on the screen, and we update the information for you. And I'm going to show you some examples. So these are perfect examples that you can build in PowerPoint by using our plugins. So 3 locations where you display the information. There's another setup. And we all know that in PowerPoint, the sky is the limit. You can insert any image, you can use any font size and color, etc. So these are just examples, good examples of how you can set up a weather slide. Just to give you an idea. They're all good looking. And you see the previous ones were only with a background, an image background here. And here we have a video background. So you can do anything. So if you have a nice movie of the company or something, or maybe a product that you're showcasing on the television, you can use an overlay of text information and then display this weather information. So these are just examples of what you can do. And everything that you see is included in our plugins in DataPoint or Dynamic Weather. And this is a world map where you just see the icon. So not much more than the icon, no temperatures and so on. Okay, that brings us to the question, why would you like to display weather information? Why should you display weather information on a display? One reason is to inform. You have to, or you want to inform your viewers about the weather information. Another reason is to entertain people. Imagine a waiting area at a hospital or a doctor or in a garage or wherever you are. You are waiting there, you see a screen on the wall and you can read the weather information. That's another reason. But the best reason is an excuse for your advertising. So if you're running a business, you can use a monitor to display your services, your products, your information, your messaging, etc. But in between your products and promotions that you are showing to the people, so your advertising, you now have a good excuse for them to look at the screen. So they can see, for example, a running clock, real-time news information, that's another story, and weather information like this here. So this is a good excuse for your advertising, for having a screen in your building. So let me explain. We have two products. We have Dynamic Weather, which is the easy to use product. And we have our big brother, which is called DataPoint. And I think the most screenshots are coming from DataPoint, but basically you get the same information by Dynamic Weather. DataPoint is just a big brother where you can also connect to weather information, to databases, to display key performance indicators, etc. Dynamic Weather is limited to weather only. And there is another difference. Dynamic Weather only has 5 days of forecast. DataPoint has 15 days. That's a difference. So DataPoint, you install DataPoint, you can get a 15-day free trial from our website, and you just install DataPoint on your computer. Next time that you start PowerPoint, you will have a new menu option in PowerPoint, which is called DataPoint. And you typically find this after the last option that you typically have, the help option in PowerPoint. So here is DataPoint. When you click DataPoint, you have a ribbon with a few options here. So you have a few icons here, buttons that you can click, and everything starts with the list in the connections of the connections group. So you click the list button here, and then you get a list of all the data providers that you have in DataPoint. So I can, for instance, connect to a Microsoft SQL Server database. I can connect to an Oracle database. I can connect to RSS feed, or I can use the weather information data provider. So basically, I select the weather data provider here from the list, and I click the add query. That's what you can do.
Kurt, we do have one question I just thought I'd throw to you there. So Grover Media Service says, I was going to ask, what version of PowerPoint are you using for accomplishing this task for weather?
This is Office 365, but DataPoint is working on 2010, 13, 16, 19, 21, and Office 365. Great. But you need to have the desktop application, so not the web application. It has to be the desktop application.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me go one slide back. So you select the weather data provider from the list of 25 data providers that you have there, and then you click Add Query. And then you arrive at this form. And here, first of all, you have to specify the location. So you have the location, the language, the scale, so you can choose Fahrenheit and Celsius. Fahrenheit for the in the US, in the USA, and I think most of the other countries worldwide are using the Celsius scale. And you can use an icon set. So first of all, the location, that's most important, of course. You can enter the location in the following syntax. So you can use, for example, Miami, Florida, USA. So first of all, the city or the village, the state, and the country. You can also use abbreviated states. So you can also use Miami and then FL for Florida, USA. That's working as well. If you're moving away from countries with states, like in Europe, for instance, so you can use, for instance, for Paris, you just use Paris as the city and France as the country. So you have no state option there, that's not needed. If you want to use the short version, you can even use Paris and then FR for France. So the 2-character abbreviated code for the countries. So you just enter the city, the state, and the country. That's for the location. For the languages, you have a huge list of languages that you can use. And it's probably only limited to a few fields or column names in the weather data that is going to be translated. It's the temperature is always the same in Japanese. It's the same number, etc. It's only the description of the weather. So if it's cloudy, if it's sunny, etc., that information is translated into another language. So maybe in the States you want to display something in English and maybe as well in Spanish, or in Canada you want to display it in English and in French, etc. So that's what you can choose there for the language. Of course, the scale is already explained. You have to choose between Fahrenheit and Celsius, and DataPoint takes care of the conversion. And then we have the icon set, and that's important. So when you open the icon set option, you typically have the first 5 options included in DataPoint. Those are shipped with DataPoint, and that means that you can display sunny, cloudy, mist, thunderstorms, etc. We all have icons for that. We have different icons for day and different icons for night. So we have a separation between day and night. And when you choose, for instance, the icon set 1, then you have colored icon sets. If you use icon set 2, you have gray icons. 3 black, 4 white, and 5 has animated GIFs. So you see some little movement in the image, like a small video that you're showing on the screen. Icon set 6, the full HD weather expansion pack there will be explained in a minute. So you install DataPoint, and then you will find all the icons where you just have to use this list here. But when you go sneaking on your hard drive, you can find this location. So C program files, and then PresentationPoint, and then probably DataPoint Enterprise Edition or Standard Edition, whatever you have installed. And then you have weather icons, and then we are using version 4 at this time. So when you open that folder, you find all the list that you see here is derived from the information, the maps that you find here. You can easily create your own icon set. If you are not happy with our default icon sets and you want to use purple icon sets, for example, you can just duplicate or create a new folder in here, and you have to create icon for every code that we are using or seeing at the weather API. So if you want to have a purple sun, you can create your own icon and it will be visible here. You can select that icon set and it will be used on your screen. So that's for the location and the default and the customizable icon sets. And then we have the full HD weather expansion pack that we are selling as an additional optional product on our website. And I have some good news at the end of this session for you regarding this. And a few examples for the full HD weather expansion pack is this. So you get for every weather code, so this is snow, You get for every weather code, you get a full screen, high quality, high resolution image that you can use as a background. So the idea is that you can use this on the background instead of displaying your city, etc., and that you can still display the minimum temperature, the maximum temperature, the current temperature, the forecast of the next 5-7 days, etc., on top of this movie or animation here that you see here. So this is snow, this is thunder, you see, and it's maybe not as good looking over Zoom that we are using now, but it's smooth, it's smooth animation here on my local computer. And here's another example, just rain during the day. So that's included in the full HD weather pack. So when you make a connection, so after that you added your city or your location to DataPoint, to PowerPoint, then you can start using the weather information. And typically, I'm going now to give you an overview of all the information that we have inside that weather data set. First of all, you basically have 3 blocks. So you have, first of all, the general information and the current observations. So, for example, you can see when you look here at the temperature, you can see the current temperature of your location. Yeah? And you have a fields-like temperature. So this could be higher, a bit lower, etc. And then you have a few other options like, first of all, the city, the country, the time zone is indicated here as well, the longitude, latitude, position on the map on Earth. Then you have a weather code, a weather text, a weather icon, and an icon code. So the icon is something, a graphical representation of sunny or rainy or something that we will use later on. The text is showing sunny as a text and so on. This is an internal code explaining the weather information. And then you have the minimum and the maximum. Let me explain this because we are looking here at the current observations and you might think we have temperature here. Why do we have minimum and maximum here at the current observation? Because it's not the minimum or the maximum of today. Let me explain. In larger cities, you have multiple observations. You have multiple weather stations taking note of the current temperature. And in a city, in a large city, you can have some differences in temperature. Maybe in the north of the city, it's 2 degrees more than in the south or something. So you can find all the information of a big city. And if you have some variations in the temperature, you can read out the minimum of that city and the maximum noted at this time from the various multiple stations, weather stations in your city. So that's the information that you can find there. And then, of course, you have pressure, humidity, visibility, wind speed, wind direction, cloudiness, that's a percentage, the last update indication, timestamp, etc. You have UV information and index as well. So this is what the weather API that we are using, what DataPoint is seeing at the moment for your location. So then I go to the next slide, and then we have the expectations of today. So here we will find the date as a date format, the day, the full day. So this could be WED, WED for today. Full day is Wednesday. You have the sunrise, the sunset, etc. And then the temperature during the day, temperature during the night. You have the minimum temperature, the maximum temperature that is foreseen for today. So probably the minimum is at night and the maximum is at noon. And so on. So you have the temperature at evening, the expected temperature in the morning, the fields like for day and night, evening, morning, etc. And then again, for today, the forecast of pressure, humidity, the weather code, the weather icon, and so on, wind information, the cloudiness, and so on. So this is all the information that you also find next to the current observations. This is what was expected for today. And then we move on. That's the third group of information or fields that we have in the data set, that DataPoint is provided. For DataPoint, you have 15 days of forecast. So you have day +1, day +2, day +3 till day 15. And this is, for example, all the fields that you find for day +1. So this is the information, the forecast for tomorrow. So here again, just like today, you will find the date, the day, the full day, sunrise, the minimum temperature, maximum temperature, and so on. All the same information as we would see for today, but then now for 15 days in the future. So this is all the information, 3 types or 3 groups of information that you can find at the data set. So, okay, so we have set up, for example, for Paris or Miami, as you have seen in some examples there, we have set up the location and we are able to see the information or retrieve the information from the weather API that DataPoint is using. And then you have that information, and now we are going to visualize that information on your slides, on your television, finally. So what we can do is we just insert a text box on any given slide in your presentation. And you select that text box, and then you click DataPoint text box. And then this form is opened. So from here, I can see a list of all the connections that I have. So maybe I have a connection to a RSS feed to display news, or to my key performance indicators of my factory, etc. But one is weather. And this is a bad example, but this is just called new query. I could have specified the name in here. So this could be Brussels or Chicago or whatever. I can give this a proper name. So I can select a data set, and from that data connection there, I get a list of all the columns. And the columns are all the 3 groups, the 3 slides that I explained before this, that you will get here in this list. And typically, row number 1, and then when you choose to display the city of your data set, then a preview of the text box, the value that you're binding dynamically to your text box is Paris in this case. So you have a preview, you click OK, and then the location of your weather source is displayed in the text box. So this goes for textual information. So all the multiple columns that we have in a data source are typically text. So your temperature, the weather code or description, etc. That's all text that you can bind to a text box. We have a few other columns in there where you can use graphical information. So here, for instance, the weather icon. So here again, I'm inserting an image on my slide, and I tell to DataPoint, use this image and use and place the weather icon, the dynamic weather icon here in this picture placeholder. So I select my previously normally inserted image, and I click DataPoint and then picture. And from there, I have the same options. So I can select the data connection. So I can maybe switch to another city. I can choose the columns. So for this, I select the weather icon column, row number 1. And then you see a preview of the file name that we are going to use. So you can verify what image that we are going to use. And then if it's cloudy for Paris at the time, during daytime, you will find a weather code description, O for day, and a D, and a D is for day. N would be for night, so that would be another icon. So this is the current weather in Paris being cloudy. And then you see a preview of the image that we are going to use on the screen. So when you click OK, then again, that image that you have placed, that image placeholder that you have placed on the slide will be dynamically linked to the weather information. And then we can do a live demo. So I'm exited the slideshow now. And here you see DataPoint. So DataPoint is here in the PowerPoint ribbon. And here is that list connection. So now I'm going to do what I was showing in the previous slides. So here from the list of available data connections, I'm selecting here the weather data source, and I click Add Query. I always get the last used city. So if you're not moving, you're typically only reporting for one city, the city that you're living in or the city that you're working in. So this is my example. Maybe I can switch this, or I can switch to San Diego, California, USA, for instance. Leave it in English, leave it on Fahrenheit. I can use the color, I can set 1, and I click OK. Takes a while, goes to the internet, to the weather data source, and this is the information. So here I get a preview, and here you can recognize all the columns that I've explained before: city, country, time zone, minutes, etc., longitude, latitude, and then many columns. The 15 days columns are included here as well. No. So it's called new query. Let's give this a decent name, and I call this San Diego. That's one. Yes, there's San Diego, and I click OK. So now we have the information in our presentation, but we have never linked the information or linked the data on a slide. So that's what we are going to do now. I can insert, for instance, a text box, a normal text box on PowerPoint, and I click to draw this. So this is a text box. And now I can go to DataPoint and I select text box. And here you see, now we have a list of all data connections that we have set up in this presentation, only one at this time. So it's a weather type data set or a data provider. And the name of the connection was called San Diego. So San Diego I select, and I can choose to display now, for instance, the temperature, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So I can click now on OK, and let me make this a little bit bigger, something like this, and bold maybe like this. So this text box is now dynamically linked forever. So for this evening, for next week, next year, etc. When I open the presentation or when I run the slideshow, it will always be displaying the current temperature of San Diego. Yeah, so it's not hard-coded, it's dynamic. That's what DataPoint is doing. So I can further customize this, and maybe I can click the text tab here, and maybe I want to add some more information. So I can say now, and maybe as a suffix. So that was a prefix. A prefix goes before the numeric value or the value that we are dynamically binding. So that's 60. So before that, I want to place now. And after that, I want maybe to put an F for Fahrenheit. So when I click OK, you get this information now. So this is how you can customize that information. I can duplicate the slide, the text box. And I can switch to maybe fields like 85. So here in this case, I can say fields like, and then you get this. And of course, I have to make my text boxes large enough like this. If you want to insert an image, then you just do the normal way in PowerPoint, insert picture from this device. Let me have a look. You always have to start with a normal image from the hard drive. So this one, for instance, there it is. I can make it smaller and I can put it here. So this is a normal image as we are used to use in PowerPoint. So now I go to DataPoint, picture. Yes, I want to convert this into a DataPoint picture. And now again, I can choose the data connection. So I remain at the San Diego weather data set. And here I select the weather icon. And here we have sun. So I click OK. And then now we have dynamically linked that image to the weather condition or the weather text or the weather icon in this case, basically, for San Diego. So if you want to duplicate this, and maybe you want to display the forecast for the next coming days, so you just go to pictures, weather icon, and now you see here, that's the list of the current observation. That's the list of today. And then we have to go to tomorrow. So for tomorrow, I can choose the day 1, day +1, basically, weather icon. And that's this. I duplicate again. Let me put it here and bring it back into view. It's probably running an autosave. There it is. So let me align this. Data point picture, day 1, and I will move on again to weather, day 2, weather icon, cloudy again. No, I'm okay. And then day 3, weather icon there. So the sun is coming up again on, what is it, Saturday? So that's the information. And then you can further customize. So maybe you can use a small text box for tomorrow, and you can jump to day 1 temperature minimum. So the minimum temperature, that's 51. Put it in white again, and then you can put this here and display the maximum temperature, 70. So then you just have to further optimize this. Probably you want to center the information, the text boxes here, and that's how you can further customize these slides. Basically, if you want to insert, or another ID, if you insert a world map, here it is. That's a map of the world. You can do the same, and maybe, or let me just use a weather icon. So I'm copying this, placing it here. Then maybe I first have to, sorry, not this. I want to make it darker. Something like this. So on for San Diego, I can place it here. And now if I want to create something for Paris, let's go to data connection, weather, add query, and I can say Paris, France, and maybe Celsius, probably there. It's getting the information from Paris. Let's give it a capital P that it deserves. And I close. So I can now use this, duplicate the image again. I put it on Paris. There is Paris somewhere behind it. Picture. And now I just have to switch from the San Diego weather data set to the Paris data set. And there it's night already. So you see 04, that's cloudy, and for night. And that's the information that you get from there. So this is how you can maybe create or use a map of the USA and then display for every state the weather conditions or the icons and the minimum and maximum temperature, or you can use a world map if you have multiple offices worldwide and you want to show the information there. You can even zoom in PowerPoint on a specific area to zoom in on Europe and then display Paris and Rome information and so on. And that's basically how you can easily display and update weather information. So I told you already that DataPoint is updating the information when you open the presentation. When you run the slideshow, when I run the slideshow now, or use other software of PresentationPoint like iPoint, for instance. iPoint is a tool that you can use to send out a PowerPoint presentation to any remote screen. So if you have multiple locations, you can use iPoint and send out a presentation with your messaging and content to the New York office, for instance. So that's iPoint. So when you send out your presentation to a remote screen, that information is updated, and for weather information, we are updating information every 10 seconds. Every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, we do an update on the weather information. Okay, and then I'm coming to this slide again. So the full HD weather expansion pack. Normally, you can buy this as a additional or optional product on top of your DataPoint or dynamic weather. It costs you $49. I'm giving all the viewers that are going to like and share our YouTube video later on. So I'm suggesting that watch our YouTube, subscribe now already to our YouTube channel. And in a few days, you will see this recording popping up on the YouTube channel. Like it, share it, and take a screenshot of your liking. Send it to us, and you will get a free copy of the full HD weather expansion pack. So just like us, as you normally should do, and then you get this optional pack completely for free. So I'm just ending with this slide. My name was Kurt Dupont, and it's displayed in full. You can reach me at kurt@presentationpoint.com. My colleague Garland, that you saw from in the beginning, is Garland Colson, and you can reach him at garland@presentationpoint.com. And more information can be found on our website, presentationpoint.com. You will find there the link to YouTube as well. And now I'm ready for you to hear if you have questions.
Thanks, Kurt. That was really interesting, and I learned a lot. And I already work with I already work with these plugins. One of the things that's always really impressed me about the weather API or the weather connection that we're doing for DataPoint is the icons. Like, I just love how the icons will also change, that it gives you a very visual way of showing the weather, not just the the numbers. I mean, the numbers are great, data is great, but it really helps to have that kind of graphic excitement and those kinds of things. So yes, if anybody's got questions, please enter them now in the chat. And you get Kurt while he's here, and we can grill him.
Yeah, and do not forget to like and send in a screenshot to get the expansion pack. That's it's a large file. I believe it's 1.4 gigabyte. So it's a large file because it's large and high quality images in there that you can use on your live screens.
And I'll tell you that whenever I see people sitting in a coffee shop or a restaurant, any place that's got a screen up, eyes are just automatically magnetically drawn to it. We just can't not look at it. And weather is like the top search on the internet for anything. Everybody's looking for the local weather. So definitely, if you've got any sort of a facility, pulling the eyes to the screen is brilliant. It does that. And then of course you can, as Kurt mentioned, you can include your advertising, your products, whatever messages you want to get across. It's a great way because people are definitely curious about the weather.
Yeah, sure. And you don't want to put on the television station. because then you display other information, maybe movies or news, etc., that you do not want to show in a office or a factory. So this is more silent communication that you have, where you have full control of the content and the displays.
Or even your competitors' commercials. I mean, if you're in one restaurant and you're showing a local TV station, you could be showing your competitors' commercials, and someone said, "Oh yeah, we should have eaten there instead." So.
That's happening indeed, and this is how you can avoid that. So use weather, use news, and then show them your advertising or product information or services.
Okay, well, no questions. I guess you've explained it so well that nobody really has questions about it. So as Kurt mentioned, do hit the like and subscribe button and send Curtis a screenshot, and you can get the expansion pack for the weather. And
Look,
and
I have sent some questions.
Okay,
Mr. Kurt, I'm Alexander Parkinos from Greece. We had
Okay.
also some emails with Mr. Kurt regarding what I would like to ask. I thought that it was only through the chat room, the question, so I just sent to the chat room. But anyway, I can see now that we can ask it lively. First of all, what forecast model is using in your data? Because as you know, you are from Europe, some models does not perform very well in European countries. I mean,
we have used several weather stations or weather APIs. We started with a free one, which was coming from Yahoo Weather. That stopped, so we switched to another data provider that was bought by Apple, so they stopped the public API that we could use, so we switched to another vendor, and that vendor was not showing or giving good values. We saw some differences with other weather stations, etc. So since I believe now 18 months now, we are using a specific one, so it's World Weather Online API that we are using. And I believe to see and experience good values and reasonable values on the temperature, correct values.
right. And the second, that was the main problem here when you are doing a forecast. As I had written to you in my mail, I'm an agronomist, and I make a forecast weather reports for lots of few people, and also I would like to know, is it because I saw in your presentations there is a possibility of connecting to another server? I mean, for example, can you connect it to the ECMWF server?
I guess yes, but then typically you don't use the weather that we have here, but typically you use then the open XML or the JSON provider. So probably, right. I mean, this weather API that we are using here is also based on, I believe, JSON. It could be XML or JSON, but I believe it's JSON. But we are doing some customizations in there so that we can link directly to the weather icon image that we can use. Yeah?
Right.
But you are open.
I know ECMF, it has an API on JSON. I mean, there are, I have, because I work on that maps, on charts that I have the forecast charts, and I see that there are these JSON connections. So if I'm going there and make a try, you believe that it will work?
Yes. If you prefer to use another data source, you can always use and connect by using XML or JSON. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. And also, is there a possibility, because, okay, you show the map, but you show it as a static picture. Is there any possibility, I don't know, now or in the future, to make this with connection like the QGIS or ARC info, whatever is it. So you have this data on a map that there is on a GIS program.
Yeah, but I'm not understanding what you want to do.
Global Information System, GIS. I guess
Yeah.
it would depend on if they've got a feed, you know, like that we can access in JSON or XML or one of the other formats.
If you have the data, we can visualize the information.
Right.
But you have to find a good source that you can use. If you are not happy with the included weather API, I mean, I guess most people are satisfied or that feed is sufficient for their needs. If you don't want to use the included weather API, you can always switch to another data source and start using and displaying that information.
Yeah, because the main point is that, I mean, when you make a presentation, you don't want to make copy and paste all the time. That's the main use really of the DP, the DataPoint. And that's the reason really that I started to have this trial in the beginning, which didn't work really on my data because also, as you said, in some servers, you need to give a user account and password.
Yeah.
So I saw, but you have it as well. So I believe that I'll try to see if it will work. No, it's I mean, for free for some sites. I have checked really on those days, and it worked perfectly. Not in the details that you show, but with the links with the PNG pictures from the site. And really, it received the new ones. I mean, they did update it automatically. That was very helpful, but it was not the detail that I wanted anyway. So I have to try this thing.
But that is something that probably you should talk to us about support, that outside of this, that we can look specifically at the feed and any issues you're having and see what can be done. I mean, DataPoint works with almost every possible data feed out there, but yes, if some things are hidden behind passwords and IDs, then it's hard to access it sometimes. So.
And maybe I can add the weather API that we are using typically today. When you're doing 1,000 calls a day to the weather API, you have to pay for this. And we have used the Yahoo weather API before. That was free. It was stopped probably by, I don't know why it was stopped by Yahoo. But this weather API you can use. We are paying for the API calls that's included in the DataPoint. And if you are using another data provider, then you can still connect to it. But then probably you also have to pay for the calls that you're doing to the API.
The ECMWF, according to the latest law, they provide it for free to the public.
Okay.
As NASA as well. I mean, NASA with the GFS forecast system, it's quite good. And that's why I asked you if you can, I mean, if you can link to NASA data, forecast data, and having that on your on the presentation.
But maybe if you have problems somewhere or you see differences or something, let me know by support ticket. We look into this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for
okay, you're welcome.
very good presentation. Really, in a few minutes, I got it. Whereas I had it to read all the manual for more than this.
Oh yeah. It's definitely that's helping. It's helping indeed.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Any other question, Garland? Do we have something on the chat?
Nope,
maybe
nothing in the chat, so I don't think anybody else had questions. So it's
the sky is clear, and so was this webinar, I guess.
Yes, good job.
Okay, perfect. Then we can end this meeting, I guess.
Yes, goodbye everybody, and look for the recording on our YouTube channel.
Bye-bye.